Yes.
Yep. Helena, very welcome here in the Netherlands and in the TA Academy.
Thank you, Moniek.
We are very glad to have you here, and you are the one who discovered, promoted, developed the relational TA. But to start with is, when and how did you get connected with transactional analysis to start with?
To start with, it was completely random. I went to Metanoia to Metanoia Institute in London to study psychotherapy, and the person in charge, I said I'd like to do psychotherapy, and she said you do TA. There was Gestalt, TA, and person-centered, and I found myself randomly in TA.
And it was a good match.
Very good. I gradually realised that there was no deep reason for me to be doing it. It was just because there were some spaces in that group.
Oh, yeah.
But I found that the international aspect of it was fantastic, and that really was a very happy choice that I ended up in TA. I also loved the theory. It was very, very beautifully taught, and I could see that that the model itself provided lots of potential to develop it in many different ways. Is what I remember thinking that in a group. So that was the first sort of starting of, oh, where might this go?
And now you still honor the basic concepts of TA?
Yes.
And you develop it further with the relational TA aspects.
Yes.
Can you say something about that?
Something about how, yes, I think that my experience of TA in part from the beginning was that it was quite a sort of lopsided theory. It felt quite macho. And when I qualified, or even before I qualified, I began to think there's something missing from this. Partly because I'd gone into Jungian analysis, and I began to recognise that there was a lack of depth in quite a bit of my experience. And so as I researched it, one of the things I found out was that Bern had originally been called Bernstein.
Yeah.
And so I began to think the Stein was missing out of TA, whatever that symbolised.
And what symbolises the Stein for you?
For me, it was the feminine, it was the receptivity of the feminine, it was the vulnerability of the feminine, and the vulnerability symbolised by the Jewishness of the name Stein. That something about that letting go of it could be brought back in, and that we would then be richer for embracing our heritage in it that had been sort of let go of, or that was symbolically how I was thinking, and lots of other things, you know, in collaboration with Charlotte and other people, it became clear that other people were thinking the same way, and that there were a lot of people who really felt drawn towards working in a way which was more towards depth and the feminine receptive, but less, there wasn't really the model to show it.
Yeah. I remember the first time we met, we were talking about the shadow,
Yes.
the dark side of people, the anger, the jealousy, the despair, the feelings we are not easily talking about.
Yes.
The unconscious.
Yes.
And that are the things you draw more attention to. Can I say that?
Yes, I think so. I think that's in a way again the Stein sort of symbolises the darker side of our psyches, and the fact that there's things that we don't really want to know about, hidden under I'm okay, you're okay. But what happens when we lift the lid of that, we find something else that has got the potential to enrich us. It's not that it's all dark and doom and awful, but the shadow is what makes us human, really. Because if we don't have a shadow, we're not alive.
Yeah.
So there's something about finding in the shadow the ingredients that enliven us and make us who we are as human beings.
Yeah. And so for you, TA theory is more complete with the relational part and the unconscious and the relatedness part.
I think it's a movement towards that. I wouldn't say it is complete, but I think it's a movement towards a more of a wholeness in and I think what I believe is that the whole relational endeavour is more of a symbol that many people within TA have identified with in their own particular way to take things deeper in whatever way that is. So it's not like a gospel or a dogma, or you must have that circle there and it must mean this. It's more, it's given people a symbolic space in which to develop their thinking and practices in ways that are perhaps a little less certain and a little less, less certain and more open to creating a type of mess out of which other things can happen that aren't quite so concrete.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the advantages of this is, in my opinion, that it makes TA again more part of the general psychotherapy theories, because a relational TA links in with object relation theory, with the humanistic tradition. It's also with modern psychoanalytic thinkers who focus on the relationship very much too. So
yes, because it brings about the idea of the unconscious, and as we were talking about this morning, it also highlights that relational is not about connection with each other alone, it's about connection with self and the internal world. I think relational is probably not the best word in the world, to be honest, but it's the word that actually seemed to be in the ether at the time that we came up with it. And I remember reading Immanuel Kant's inauguration speech in 2003 to the relational psychoanalysts, and he said he was a bit ambivalent about the word relational because he felt perhaps sensibility would be more of a better word, a sensibility rather than a theory. And I like that. For me, it's more about a sensibility and a symbol than nuts and bolts of some theory.
Now, this morning we already got to know a bit what you mean by it. You really make the theory enlivening in the connection with us and your workshop. So
thank you.
I'm hoping to get more of it this afternoon and tomorrow. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Monique. It's lovely being